Now, the Epstein files have finally been published overnight. Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, and Professor Stephen Hawking are among 170 people named in newly released US court documents related to paedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Well, joining me right now to discuss all this is Nigel Cawthorne. He's author of Virginia Giuffre, The Extraordinary Life Story of the masseurs who pursued and ended the sex crimes of millionaires Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Good afternoon to you, sir. I love the title of your book. It kind of, it does exactly what it says on the tin, doesn't it? Actually, it gives the full story there. Thank you for joining us. I just wanted to clarify for people like what these Epstein files actually are. These are court documents dating back to 2015, aren't they? Involving a civil lawsuit that Virginia Giuffre brought against Jeffrey Epstein, still alive then, of course, and Ghislaine Maxwell, now convicted behind bars for her part in trafficking young girls for sex for Jeffrey Epstein and other men, and abusing them herself. And these documents, there's been demands for a number of years to get these documents published. What have we learned from these almost 1,000 pages published overnight that we didn't know already?
Well, actually, very little. Most of this stuff had been out in public already, in dribs of drabs. The court case you referred to in 2015 resulted from when Virginia Giuffre began to speak out about the abuse that she suffered from Jeffrey Epstein and the trafficking by Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell then said that this was all lies. So Virginia Giuffre sued Ghislaine Maxwell for libel.
Yeah.
The case was eventually settled for an undisclosed amount of money, probably a very large amount, and the court papers were then sealed. The Miami Herald, who's been on the Epstein case from the very beginning, and we'd never know anything about it if it weren't for the Miami Herald, have been pursuing the matter to get these papers opened up, the court papers. And the judge in New York decided that so much of this material had already been in the public domain that there was no point in keeping these things secret anymore.
And indeed, some of the people named are people, again, we knew names, or some of them sort of some new names. But the interesting thing is people saying, oh, this is the list of, the people who exploited girls, or no, this is a list. Some of them are the names are of some of the victims, some of those girls who were trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Some are people who were simply asked about, and the girls would say, no, I never saw this man on the island, or no, I was never forced to have sex with this man. So it's very important that we're clear that just because someone is named in these documents, it doesn't mean we can point the finger at them and say you're guilty of something. And certainly there are some people who've they've issued civil lawsuits and protesting their innocence, and other denials. Bill Clinton says he never went to the Epstein's island. He doesn't. He met with him, associate. Bill Gates always said it was all to do with charity work that they did. I'm not sure Melinda Gates was happy about their relationship. She mentioned it as one of the reasons for her divorce. But Prince Andrew is the one everybody's been focusing on, certainly in this country. Bill Clinton, the name in America, obviously. But these claims, we've heard claims before about Prince Andrew. He settled a civil lawsuit against Virginia Giuffre, paid her, we think, in the region of 8, 9, 10 million pounds to seal this up. But seeing these claims being made, not in a documentary or a newspaper interview, but in basically sworn testimony in depositions, it's very different, isn't it? And it's very damaging for people like Prince Andrew.
Well, indeed, it is certainly damaging for him. None of the other people involved, whose names there's a lot of papers to go through here, but none of the names I've come across so far have actually been accused of anything to do with the sex trafficking of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The only person who has been accused is Prince Andrew. He had an opportunity to clear his name when Virginia Giuffre sued him. He decided to settle out of court by, as you say, a huge amount of money, while still denying that he'd ever met her.
Yeah.
And I think it's a time now, although the Metropolitan Police have 3 times refused to investigate Prince Andrew's activities, it's time for them to get on with the job now and find out what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it extraordinary there hasn't been a proper police investigation into this. I agree with you on that. Again, he's always denied any wrongdoing. As you say, denied even ever meeting Virginia Giuffre, and yet bizarrely paying her this large sum of money to make it go away, we're told. But this is the thing. This is coming back to haunt him. In terms of, the claims and counterclaims, there's stuff that's gone into the public domain, there's stuff that's known behind the scenes. The picture that's been painted, and there have been plenty of documentaries, one particular one I've mentioned a few times on the show, a Netflix documentary about what happened on this island, a huge number of first-hand accounts, police officers who interviewed dozens and dozens of now women, but then girls who claimed, and again, tell very similar stories, have photographic evidence and the like of the abuse they went through. This was happening on a huge scale. Hundreds of girls were being procured, trafficked, sexually abused, handed around Jeffrey Epstein and his friends and his associates. People were aware of it. They were aware of it for a very long time. It was happening almost in plain sight, not just on the island, but in his house in New York, where people would arrive and there would just be numerous, 15-year-old girls wandering around. He wasn't married with kids, he didn't have any children. Why were there 15-year-old girls wandering around? The fact that so many people must have suspected at the very least that something was going on. Staff, associates, people who just came. What does that tell you about the ability of a very rich, very powerful man and his friends and associates to basically get away with horrific crimes against young women?
It's not what you know, it's who you know, isn't it? I mean, even Donald Trump said that Jeffrey was a man after his own heart. He liked beautiful women, only he liked them very young.
We like girls. They were girls. I mean, let's use the right word.
Donald kind of knew. And of course, Donald takes a very interest in young, very young girls as well, with his Miss Teen America contests, where he seems to wander into the changing rooms while they're
we know that is categoric. He's both. Donald Trump. And one of the quotes in this paper is the idea that that a report from somebody that Jeffrey Epstein told them that Donald Trump likes them young. That's pretty much the only real reference to him. But again, that is hearsay. That wouldn't stand up in a court of law. But we know Donald Trump himself has boasted, and women have testified to that Donald Trump would, when he was hosting those pageants, that he would deliberately walk into the room to see all these young women while they were changing and naked. I mean, again, very young women, really, and girls, really repulsive behaviour.
Indeed, teenagers in Donald Trump's case. The suggestion against Bill Clinton was that he liked young women. Well, yes, he liked Monica Lewinsky, who is comparatively young, but certainly not underage.
Yeah, although there have been other allegations that have made, and we know, there are a huge number of lawsuits and cases that have been, happening over the years. What do you think will happen as a result of all of this? Anything at all? Do you think the police will maybe open another investigation or investigation at all into Prince Andrew? Do you think there is another case to answer there? What do you think will happen?
Well, indeed, as I say, the Scotland Yard have 3 times refused to investigate this matter when there's palpable evidence. We've all seen the picture of Virginia Giuffre, who was accused Prince Andrew with his arm around her, and in the background, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now convicted for sex trafficking.
Exactly.
How much evidence does Scotland Yard need just to open an investigation?
Exactly. I mean, they open investigations into other crimes without on hearsay, do they not? Really interesting to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. That's Nigel Cawthorne. I'm going to read the title of that book again. He's the author of Virginia Giuffre, The Extraordinary Life Story of the masseurs who pursued and ended the sex crimes of millionaires Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you for joining us.